So you want to pump out decent DPS in melee range, but you're not a super experienced player and you don't know what DPS class or spec to pick. While the most obvious and rather brain-dead choice would be the currently broken Retribution Paladin spec, that is already being nerfed and will get nerfed even further, the second less obvious, but almost as good and a much safer choice would be a Windwalker Monk. In this video I will tell you how to play the spec in the most plain and simple, nothing fancy way. But firstly, why play Windwalker? Well, because A. Monks have 3 specs, just like Paladins do, and you investing your time into Windwalker still leaves you an amazing alternative to switch into Brewmaster tanking spec or Mistweaver healing spec, aka it's a smarter time investment than many other classes would offer. And B, because not all classes and specs are made equal. I've always been saying that. As in, sometimes it's objectively easier to be better at some classes and some specs than others, at least in my humble opinion. And Windwalker is one of those, yes, many button, but very face roll friendly DPS specs that you'll pump with without any particular drama. Yes, Windwalkers and Monk class in general do have a lot of buttons, do have a certain level of complexity, too many buttons for my liking, but there is still a nice way to reduce the number of those buttons that I'm about to show you. And honestly, if I can play Windwalker reasonably well at a not embarrassing level, it means you will be able to as well. Now let's keep going and take a look at my custom Windwalker Talents build that I've always focused on reducing the number of buttons to press while keeping the gameplay as smooth and beginner friendly as possible. So if we take a look at the talents, Windwalker Talents here on the right hand side, I'm not going to take you through each of these particular points taken, but once again I haven't taken extra buttons that will, yes, potentially they will offer some variety of gameplay to those of you who would like that variety of gameplay, but if you would like to simplify without losing too much, then I would not recommend taking Strike of the Windlord. I would not recommend taking Whirling Dragon Punch, and you will also see that I have not taken Rushing Jade Wind. But other than that, I absolutely believe that Feline Stomp is too good of an ability not to take and not to waste, so to speak, an extra keybind on. I did take it, as you can see. You absolutely need, and it's also kind of down the middle here, you sort of cannot bypass it. You need Storm, Earth and Fire, the staple ability of Windwalkers, where we summon those little kind of replicas of ourselves, little clones that go and punch everything, kick, punch all around us. And you will also see that I've taken on the left hand side of Monk core talents here an extra statue, which is a questionable choice, I know, and it is an extra button, so it kind of goes against core gyro mentality, but it once again is, I found it in the AoE situations being reasonably good and worthy of that extra button here on the side, the summon white tiger statue. With that being said, we always also obviously taking such a staple, just like we took Storm, Earth and Fire, we're also taking Invoke Shuen, the white tiger. So that is ultimately what I'm taking. What other notables are here? Towards the end here at the final sort of row of the talent points in Windwalker side of the tree, I've taken Sky Reach. You could take Sky Touch, but I took Sky Reach because ultimately this allows for extra mobility and it allows your Tiger Palm to teleport you essentially to, or dash you towards the target if you're a little bit further away. So that is what I think is critical here to point out. I've also taken, as you can see, Summon Black Ox statue, surely a point that I could have spent elsewhere, and if all you're interested in is not leveling anymore, but perhaps just optimizing for your Mythic Plus or LFR as a non-tank, obviously, class, you are not doing too much in that scenario by yourself, I reckon you can probably go without this, and you could probably take your pick and take an extra defensive in something like Dampen Harm, which I haven't taken, or perhaps if you're also not a fan of the White Tiger statue, you could also take extra defensive, and you can take diffuse magic. Probably these two that are not taken currently would have been my picks. And you could generally also give yourself extra 4% of avoidance instead of spending your points in these two extra not taken currently items, which I could absolutely take, either these ones individually, or I could have taken probably Generous Paw. That is probably for higher Mythic Plus, where the AoE damage is kind of increased, and extra 4% perhaps is going to save you out of trouble, kind of where currently I seem to be a little bit unprotected myself. But now let's take a look at my keybinds and how do I generally play. Well, mastery for Windwalkers is combo strikes. So our abilities deal a certain amount more damage. My mastery is not that high at this item level, but they deal more damage when they are not a repeat of previous ability. What does it mean? It means that you cannot just mash the same button the whole time. Yeah, there needs to be a certain rotation in this. So I am, as you can see, I am trying to genuinely, consciously, and it's like a mini game within a game, which I actually surprisingly for myself don't mind. If you go Tiger Palm, then next one should not be Tiger Palm. If you go Tiger Palm, then next one possibly is Blackout Kick, and then possibly Rising Sun Kick. Whatever lights up generally, that's what I call face roll effect, because I'm not being particularly specific or sequential here. It's a priority system. We know that Rising Sun Kick is a single target damage, but it is a lot of damage in one kick. We know that Blackout Kick is very, very good. It's very useful, or it also reduces the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick and Fists of Fury, and we obviously have Fists of Fury, our awesome channel. First of all, massive amount of damage over time can be done, can be also channeled. Yeah, so can be also punched while channeling. Sorry, you can channel it while moving. This is the most important part. So you start punching and you continue moving, which is fantastic. Not many classes, especially melee classes, can boast something like this. Feline Stomp is also amazing. It deals nature damage to the enemies. It restores health to up to 5 allies within the 30 yards caught in the feline, and also the enemies suffer additional damage. Your abilities have a 6% chance of resetting the cooldown of Feline Stomp when fighting on the feline, when you do one and then you stand on it. So in my humble opinion, you absolutely always stomp when you can stomp. You absolutely always Fists of Fury when you can Fists of Fury. When it's not a trivial enemy, especially on bosses, slightly tougher opponents, something, groups of enemies, I absolutely always would Storm, Earth and Fire, which resets the cooldown relatively fast. It's up relatively often. And then, well, your Tiger Palm naturally is a filler, and your Blackout Kick is naturally a filler, with a slightly stronger single target kick being Rising Sun Kick. That's about it. For AoE, as you can see, all I'm doing is Feline Stomp, all I'm doing is Fists of Fury, and all I'm doing constantly when I can is Spinning Crane Kick. Occasionally you will see that there are not that many targets, but I'm still spinning. It is simply because it's glowing and it procced for extra damage, and I occasionally do that, but I suppose if you're a min-maxer, you probably will do something smarter in that situation than I do. And that in essence is it. That is roughly, well, that is rather face rolly as far as I'm concerned. How many buttons do we have mapped here? If you can see that me, Gyro, I have comfortably mapped most of the main items, other than, I don't know, Touch of Death, other than Invoke Shu and the White Tiger cooldowns. If I mapped all of them to this center of my standard UI, which you can watch another video where I explain how I map things, it means that there is only a handful really of abilities that I need to tap periodically, kind of on a regular basis as the fight goes on. As far as the damage is concerned, look, I am not an amazing DPS. I would not say I'm an amazing tank, but I'm more of a tank than I'm a DPS, admittedly. But as I said, not all classes are made the same, and Windwalker Monk is one of those very rare classes that somehow in Melee DPS spec I find myself being able to compete with much better geared characters. So here these mythic, low mythics and LFR, whatever I do with this monk, I've been grouping with people who are much better geared than I am. These people I was running this low mythic are absolute terminators. This mage at the top of the DPS meter is like in low 400, eye level 400, and this monk is at 3.8 389 right now, item level 389. So those characters that are outperforming me, I suppose, first of all, they're hitting from the range. They do not have the problem of chasing the targets around. I'm not going to use it as an excuse, but they are still above me almost by 20 item levels, which counts for something. That tells you that if me, with my super chill approach, I can still pump this out, it means that you absolutely can too. So I'm a big fan of Windwalker Monks. Yes, I would have preferred to have fewer buttons, perhaps for Blizzard to implement something that would have procced auto attack automatically, similar to Crusading talent in Retribution Paladins, if you're familiar with them, similar to Devastator of the Warriors, for example, something that reduces the core rotation, the core tapping on the buttons by at least one button less. But in this particular case, it's still bearable. I'm still a big fan of Windwalker Monks. I hope you will too, and I hope I've convinced you that you can do quite well for yourself playing Windwalker Monk. Let me know in the comments down below, did you enjoy this? And I am absolutely working on more videos for simplified guides like this. Not all of them are 1, 2, 3 button guides, but they are still simplified compared to something that you can find else out there on YouTube. So do let me know if you enjoy this. Please give the video a like, it always goes a long way, and please subscribe for more, and I'll be speaking with you about something else, World of Warcraft related, very soon. Have a nice day. Goodbye for now.